Any motion that's made, by the way, should be on the ordinance itself, not on the application, not on the department's recommendations, but on ordinance 19-120. So does anyone wish to make a motion on ordinance 19-120? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve ordinance 19-120. Is there a second? Hearing none.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Brief.
Okay. All right, then, since I made a motion, I will make some comments, and then we can kind of fill in around them. I agree in principle with the proposed ordinance. And I say that because during my 22 years as a legislator, 8 as president of county council and 14 as a state senator, never once was I or any other legislator required by law to submit legislative proposals to the executive branch of government prior to their introduction. That, to me, does violate the separation of powers doctrine. A legislator should be able to introduce whatever legislation they like, good, bad, or indifferent, and let the review process, which is done in public, separate the good from the bad. The department's rationale for opposing this ordinance is as follows, and this is on page 5 of the recommendations. It says, the proposed change to the pre-application review requirement would hinder the ability of the Department of Land Use and Office of Law to convey essential information on impacts that a proposed amendment may have on the county code, government operations, services, and finances. First, conveying essential information about a proposed ordinance can occur just as well after introduction as before introduction. The main difference is that conveying that information after introduction requires that all discussions take place in public. And secondly, all ordinances have some impact on either the county code, government operations, services, or finance. That includes amendments to the building code, property maintenance code, animal control code, drainage code, rental property code, law enforcement code, libraries, sewers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They all have some impact on those same issues, but none of those ordinances have to be submitted to the respective executive branch prior to introduction. That is why this current law makes no sense to me. The one issue I do have with this proposed ordinance is that it only fixes one of the separation of powers problems. The other is found in section 14.01.007 of the county code. And that section of the law says that the chief financial officer shall attach a fiscal note to each proposed ordinance and resolution prior to its introduction by county council. So same requirement. The chief financial officer has 10 business days to attach a fiscal note, or the council person may proceed without one. So that might be where that 10-day, the 14 to 10 days came from, was that other requirement in the law. Now, it's interesting to note that the one exception to that pre-introduction fiscal note is for the annual budget, the biggest expenditure of all. The review of that follows introduction rather than precede it, again, which makes no sense to me. There's no reason that the same procedure cannot be followed for all ordinances and resolutions. So while I support this ordinance in principle, I'm concerned that it leaves a provision intact that seems to violate the same separation of powers doctrine that this ordinance attempts to fix. This ordinance can't be amended or substituted to fix this problem because it would require a title change, which would require a whole new ordinance, and the process would have to start all over. If, however, this ordinance were to pass, I would hope that the sponsor would go back and make the fiscal note section of the law consistent with this section. So that's my 2 cents for what it's worth. Other comments, questions?